Hey there. I'm a woman who's juggling freelance work with raising my son. Recently, I've reconnected with someone from my past, and even though I know it's probably wrong, my feelings are pretty complicated. I met my husband in my late 20s, and we got married quickly. We've had a good life together. My husband works in it. He started his career as a developer, but has since switched fields and is now in a managerial position. Gone are the days of working late or spending Saturdays at the office. When our son was younger, it felt impossible to do anything on my own. When he went to work, even on weekends, I can't even express how frustrating that was. Once we started sending our son to daycare, I began to regain some of my freedom and started doing things I hadn't been able to do for years. Due to pregnancy and childbirth, it had been years since I could go shopping leisurely. I would meet up with my high school and college friends, leaving our kids in educational institutions and coordinating our meetups with the opening hours of department stores or restaurants. We'd grab a light meal or a coffee and head back home, just in time for our kids' return. Reconnecting with my close friends after so long recharged me, and I felt energized enough to handle childcare and household chores the next day. While my husband might be fishing or playing golf with colleagues, I would be reading fairy tales with our son or visiting the park near our house. Of course, raising our son well is the most important task. However, meeting up with close friends without my son was crucial for relieving the stress of parenting. It's not like I went out every day. After having our son, my company allowed me to work from home, considering my situation. Occasionally, I'd have to handle urgent work calls from home. The work was manageable from home, depending on the season, and it wasn't always hectic. In fact, in my early 20s, I dated a guy named Ethan. We were together for a significant period, but Ethan moved away for a job, and gradually, our relationship ended as the distance between us grew. It was our first relationship for both of us, and everything was new to us. Ethan was born in the countryside, but moved to live with his aunt in New York before starting elementary school. He was a good student and fulfilled his parents' dream of getting into a prestigious university. We met during our sophomore year of college. Since we lived far apart, we didn't see each other often, but we kept in touch frequently thanks to our cell phones. After graduating from college, Ethan went on to pursue his graduate studies, while I landed an internship. 3 months later, I was offered a full-time position, marking the beginning of my challenging yet rewarding career. As a newcomer to the workforce, everything felt unfamiliar and overwhelming, but Ethan was my rock during those times. We dated for 5 years, and after completing his master's and securing a job at a research institute in a rural area, Ethan proposed. However, the thought of leaving New York, where I was born and raised, to live in the countryside filled me with dread. When I suggested that Ethan look for opportunities in New York instead, his dismissive response, "Do you think finding a job is easy? Don't be naive," led to our breakup. Having only known Ethan since my 20s, I found myself adrift after the breakup. One night, after drinking with a friend, memories of Ethan overwhelmed me, and I broke down in tears. People around me suggested that sometimes the best way to heal from a relationship is to start another. Ethan had been my first in many ways, making him irreplaceable in my heart. However, as time went on, I went on blind dates and eventually met my current husband, with whom I share a wonderful life. Ethan had an older sister who, interestingly, returned to college later in life to pursue the same career as mine, which remains popular to this day. She often sought my advice on her studies and career prospects. Considering my successful job placement, life has a way of bringing people together in the most unexpected ways. As part of my job, I occasionally attended group training sessions with professionals in my field. Once my son adjusted to daycare, I finally took driving lessons to overcome my long-standing dependence on public transportation. It was during one of these training sessions for entrepreneurs in the metropolitan area that I unexpectedly ran into Ethan. Despite having been apart for over a decade, he looked the same. Surprised, I greeted him, and he calmly led me to a less crowded hallway, revealing that he was involved in the same business as his sister and was there for the training. We quickly exchanged contact information before parting ways, wary of his sister's possible reaction. On the way home, I found myself lost in thoughts about the past and our serendipitous reunion. Indeed, there's a reason I can't forget Ethan. We just connected on everything. He was my first serious relationship, and after getting married, I realized how exceptional Ethan was. My husband is older, and he's tired of the 2-hour daily commute to work on public transportation. He says it's exhausting to leave early in the morning and come back home at night. For a while now, we've been sleeping in separate rooms. The excitement and enthusiasm I had at the beginning of our marriage are gone. With a child, it's also hard to maintain a good relationship. A few days later, I received a text from Ethan asking, "Can we talk?" My heart raced, just like it did when I felt my baby's heartbeat during pregnancy. I calmed myself and replied, "Yes, we can." He called right away. Hearing his voice was awkward, but comforting and familiar, and my voice trembled in response. "Where do you live now?" "I've been in New York for 5 years," he said. "Do you have time in the morning for coffee?" We decided to meet at a department store where we used to go on dates. Meeting up when it opened for coffee seemed like a good idea. In the days leading up, I was quite anxious. When the day came, I got ready and left. Ethan and I talked about everyday things. He was married and had a child the same age as mine. He had taken a certification at his sister's suggestion and was now helping her expand her business using his degree. We showed each other family photos. His daughter, who looks like Ethan, was adorable. Time flew, and before we knew it, it was time to pick up our kids, so we parted without saying everything we wanted to. Reuniting with him made me realize how ordinary yet uniquely fun it was to see him just as a normal guy. Ethan joked, "You've almost become a lady, but you're still beautiful." That night, I cooked my husband's and my son's favorite dishes. I felt guilty for keeping secrets from my husband, who knows nothing, so I busied myself cooking to avoid thinking too much. A few days later, Ethan contacted me again. "You know about the 2-day workshop our association is having, right? Can you attend? My sister can't go because of the kids." I had been hesitant, but Ethan's message helped me decide. I left my kids with my mom and decided to attend a workshop. After the formal part, I planned to have drinks with some people I connected with. But, wanting to avoid any mistakes, I didn't drink. Ethan seemed to understand my feelings, sticking to just appetizers. Feeling a bit dizzy, I excused myself to go to the bathroom, and shortly after, I received a text from Ethan, "Come to the underground parking lot. Let's talk in the car." We ended up talking a lot in the car that day. Feeling cold, I hugged my arms, and he pulled out 2 blankets from the trunk to cover us. They smelled just like I like. Ethan mentioned how exciting it was to officially meet again. To be honest, my feelings for Ethan had also grown, but we both had families, so it seemed wrong to go any further. Ethan asked if we could meet occasionally as friends, and I said I would think about it. Despite my strong desire to be with him, I knew it wasn't right. Who could have predicted such a situation? Ethan seemed genuinely disappointed that day, fidgeting with his fingers, seemingly lost on how to proceed with someone who is now another person's spouse. I gave him a hug, saying, "We can't let things go astray here." Ethan left some hope, saying, "No one needs to know. If you ever feel lonely, call me. I'll come running. I'm a lonely woman every day." However, I couldn't easily respond to Ethan's words. Having seen him 3 times since I got married felt incredibly fulfilling. Yet, I concluded that I couldn't covet more than this friendship. I usually mark appointments on my phone calendar and write short journal entry in a note-taking app. I occasionally show them to my husband, and it seemed he had seen the entries about meeting Ethan. Lying in bed after putting the kids to sleep, he came into the room, saying, "I think I've been too absorbed in my own thoughts. Come to the kids' room." Reluctantly, I followed and found that he had made the bed comfortably, promising not to distance himself because he was tired. It seemed he had seen my diary, but he didn't show it. After all, there's an unspoken understanding between spouses. I couldn't sleep at all that night. But why was I still thinking about Ethan? I reflected a lot. Let's meet in secret. What harm could it do? I gathered the courage to contact Ethan, saying, "Meet me once," and we met. It felt like the good old days of our 20s. Lately, I've been enjoying my meetings with Ethan. I know it's wrong, but being with Ethan makes me feel like my younger self again, and I'm incredibly happy.